A new warning from the U.S. Embassy in Kabul to Americans trapped behind enemy lines. Come to the airport to get out, but we can't guarantee your safety in getting there. The updated security alert released today as the State Department says the Taliban has broken its promises at the airport to keep people safe. In the new alert, a warning that the thousands of Americans left behind can attempt to get to the airport to leave at their own risk. The embassy also telling Americans desperate to get out to leave their pets behind, and that they can only take a single bag with them if they are lucky enough to get on a plane. Only about 150 Americans are reported to have made it out of Afghanistan Tuesday, and it's estimated that anywhere from 10 to 40,000 Americans are left. A stunning admission from our military leaders today. They had no idea the Taliban would take over so quickly. And what amounted to an embarrassing and what some call a disastrous press conference, Joe Biden's defensive and sensitive generals fought off reporter questions, arguing this is no time to second-guess them. But it's hard not to after hearing answers like this from Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley.
There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this Army and this government in 11 days.
Well, if Biden's military leaders couldn't figure this out, what else shouldn't we trust them with? Definitely a bad look today from the Pentagon. And then Joe Biden came to the podium to talk about vaccine booster shots and to reassure the American people that we are working to solve the Afghan crisis. Here was our commander-in-chief, finally ready to face the tough questions about his decision to bail out of Afghanistan, his decision to leave Americans in harm's way behind enemy lines. This was the moment we would hear from the leader of the free world, right? Wrong.
God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Unbelievable. Steve, you know, America is suffering from a failure in leadership at the highest level, and it doesn't look like it is going to fix itself anytime soon. And, Steve, there's also news today that Biden is heading back to Wilmington for the weekend tomorrow. Right. FAA flight records show that. So,
unbelievable.
Obviously absent amid this crisis.
At a time like this, Jen, back at the White House for, I think, about 24 hours and going on vacation again, taking another long weekend at a moment like this in American history, I think it's even worse than a failure because it's an abdication. He's not even pretending to be a leader, neither he nor our supposed leaders in the Pentagon. The American ruling class continues to fail the American citizens. And listen, it was bad enough that those same ruling class charlatans, that they sent American sons and daughters to fight and die in that godforsaken land of Afghanistan, a place of tribal brutality. But now, those same administrative elites, they're inviting the chaos of Afghanistan to become our crisis domestically here in America via tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of potentially dangerous and destabilizing migrants pouring into the United States, pouring into our homeland. I posted a picture last night of a U.S. military jet packed with more than 600 military-age men seeking refuge in the United States. Now, do some brave souls deserve the assistance of America because they took real risks on our behalf? Of course. And there are plenty of ways to help that group of people, which I believe is a relatively small group of people, but we can help that group of people in the region. We have military presences all over that region, and our Mideast allies must step up to help, especially the nations that benefit mightily from America's sponsorship and friendship, like the wealthy Arab Gulf states and like Israel. Or how about this? If these young men, if they are really Afghan patriots, how about they stay there and they actually fight for their homeland instead of coming to ours? The idea of flying these young men to the other side of the world to reside permanently in America, this is an absurdity. Yet blue check Twitter is aghast that I would suggest on social media that it's a bad idea to evacuate largely unvetted young men from a war-torn hellscape full of some of the most radical adherents of Islam in the world, and that we would expect them to seamlessly function in American society? Sorry, not sorry. I don't want these young men populating our towns and our schools and soaking up our generous taxpayer resources. And I'll give you one very good reason why. The terrible experience of Europe with Afghani migrants. In 2017, Austrian professor and Rand Corporation scholar Cheryl Bernard wrote about the inhuman crimes perpetrated by Afghanis in Europe. She noted, quote, the large and growing incidence of sexual assaults committed by refugees against local women. These were not of the cultural misunderstanding date rape sort, but were vicious, no preamble attacks on random girls and women, often committed by gangs or packs of young men. At first, the incidents were downplayed or hushed up. No one wanted to provide the right wing with fodder for nationalist agitation. With the official acknowledgement and public reporting, a weird and puzzling footnote emerged. Most of the assaults were being committed by refugees of one particular nationality, by Afghans. The Wall Street Journal corroborates this reporting, detailing that, quote, in Austria, crimes or offenses against sexual integrity and self-determination increased by 53% between 2015 and 2018. Between a quarter and a third of the suspects were foreigners. Now, many Americans became aware of this systemic sexual abuse by Mideast migrants in Europe because of the awful events of New Year's Eve 2015, when over 1,000 German women were sexually assaulted at the celebrations outside Cologne Cathedral. Of the 153 men arrested, nearly all of them were foreigners, and 63 were asylum applicants in Germany. Is this the future that we want for America? Is this the country you want for your wife, your sister, your daughter? Friends, I welcome the scorn of credentialed ruling class elites. I don't sweat their approval, and I am quite fine with their criticisms as I stand up for working class citizens of this country, of the United States, and I will take unpopular stands in defense of the deplorables. So Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, Jim Acosta of CNN, I welcome your contempt. I wear it as a badge of honor. Oh, and Frank Luntz, too. Perhaps Frank and his roomie, Kevin McCarthy, maybe they're watching us right now with their PJs on and some popcorn in the apartment they share. Here is one of my many ruling class critics, Aaron Ross Powell of the Koch brothers-funded Open Borders Cato Institute. He disparages critics of open migration, presupposing that anyone who has views in favor of restrictions on immigration has, quote, never been around immigrants. That's what he said to me. Well, Aaron, I have been around immigrants plenty. As a matter of fact, I was raised by one. And as an American citizen, as an immigrant son, an American citizen, I have every right to determine, along with other American citizens, what kind of future migration best benefits the citizens of our republic. And we immigrant sons and daughters who comprise this great nation, we will not be silenced and we will not be intimidated by leftist bullies like you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.